In this video, my first batwing, I am going to show you how to crochet my Saloon Girl top. This is a step-by-step, thorough and complete video guide. There are written instructions and a chart that go with this video guide, which you can purchase from thecastingoncouch.com. Check out the description for details of my website and social media. Note that this will fit a 34 to 36 inch bust. So I can't wait to show you this. Let's get on with the video tutorial. I will be demonstrating a size 34 to 36 inch bust. Now, to make this project smaller or larger, I would add in multiples of 4 rows per panel. So that would be a total of 8 rows. The work begins in the round from the cuff and the sleeve is formed. 2 sleeve panels are then created and joined together at the centre back with a special crochet row. For this project I'm using Wendy's Supreme Luxury Cotton 4-ply, so for results similar to mine you need to marry the ball band tension. You'll need both a 2.5 and a 3.5mm crochet hook to complete this project. Using a 3.5mm hook, create a slip knot, and next chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Yarn around the hook, enter into that first chain stitch and pull through a loop so that you have 3 stitches on the hook. Next, yarn over and simply pull through once to create 1 chain stitch, and next yarn over again and pull through 2 stitches at a time, and repeat that again, yarn over, pull through 2 stitches at a time to form a foundation double crochet stitch. Our 3 chains count as the first foundation stitch, and we've completed there the second foundation stitch. So if we do that again, yarn around the hook, let's create another foundation double crochet. So this time we're going to go into that chain stitch, pull through a loop, and first of all create that chain. That's very important. And then double crochet, so that's pulling through the first 2 stitches and then the second 2 stitches. So we now have 3 stitches so far. Let's do that again. Yarn around the hook, go into the chain stitch, pull through, chain 1, create your double crochet by pulling through 2 stitches at a time. So we've now got our 3 chains and 3 foundation double crochets, making a total of 4. Again, yarn around the hook, go into that chain stitch, pull through, chain 1, and then pull through 2 stitches at a time. Now, I want you to complete a total of 40 stitches, so that would be 3 chains and 39 foundation double crochets. Check that you have 40 stitches in total. Remember, the first stitch consists of 3 chains and the remaining 39 stitches are your foundation double crochets. We're going to join this band in the round, so check that the band is not twisted. And then we're going to create a slip stitch by entering the top of those first chain stitches like so. And at the end of the work we're going to use our little tail to close the gap, so don't worry about that for now. So this will be our first round, and we're going to create double crochets through the front post, and that means entering under the post. The verticals are the posts of the stitches. Normally you would enter the tops where you can see the chains. So I'll show you how this is done. Firstly, I'd like to say that these 3 chain stitches will be worked at the very end of the round. So they do count, we're just going to work them at the end. So yarn over the hook, ignoring the chain stitches, we'll come and do that at the end, go under the first fully formed double crochet and pull through a loop so that you have 3 loops on the hook, and simply pull through 2 at a time. So that's 1 front post double crochet completed. So yarn around the hook, let's do our second front post double crochet. Go through the stitch, pulling through a loop, and then working through 2 loops at a time. And for a third time, go through the underneath section of the stitch, the post, and work through 2 stitches at a time. And again, enter under the post of the stitch and create your double crochet. And that's how you would form a front post double crochet stitch, and it creates this beautiful raised rib effect. So continue all the way around, and then let's look at what happens towards the end of our first round. I'm at the end of the first round. I've got 2 stitches to go and the first 3 chain stitches as well. I just wanted to show you how the round ends. So I'm continuing on with the front post double crochet, including that very last stitch. And I end the round by going into these 3 chain stitches that really are our first stitch. And then that will be round 1 completed. And as we build up our rounds, all this will even itself out. So now for round 2, I'm going to go into the next stitch and keep going in front post double crochet like so. And then when I've built up 12 centimeters of work, that will be our cuff completed. So what I want you to do is just work continuous rounds in front post double crochet, and then join me when the cuff is completed, when you have 12 centimeters of work. Now I want you to work 12 centimeters worth, that's 4 7/8 of an inch worth of cuff. But I want you to leave the very last stitch unworked. Now, if we look at the cuff, that line represents our first stitch. So that means I've got 1 stitch to go, and then I can merge it in with the very first stitch. So grabbing my 3.5mm crochet hook, what I'd like you to do is go into the last stitch through the front post, but just single crochet that last stitch. And I'm doing that, notice in the next stitch I'm just going to slip stitch. And I'm in fact casting off or binding off, because this edge is my preferred edge for the edge of the cuff. And we're now going to look at picking up stitches around our initial foundation round. So with an embroidery needle I'm just going to merge those two posts together, something like that will be fine. And I am just going to weave in and out of the back. Now get yourself a 2.5mm crochet hook. We're entering through a post, look, and rejoining our yarn to that foundation round, if you like. And what I'd like you to do is chain 3 stitches. That's 1, 2, 3. And through the next post, I want you to single crochet. So what we have is a very small loop. I'm going to insert a marker into our first loop there. Repeat that sequence all the way around. So chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and into the next post, single crochet. Let me do that again. So that's our single crochet. Again, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and through the next front post, single crochet, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and create a single crochet through the front post. And what I'd like you to do is repeat that throughout the entire round. I'm coming to the end of this round. I'm still chaining 3 and going into my final front posts. I've got one more to go, 1, 2, 3, through that front post, end the round by chaining 2, 1, 2, and single crochet into that very first space. Now what I'd like you to do is check that you've got 40 of these spaces. before continuing. Next, turn the work as if you're working to and fro, but in reality what we're going to be doing is working the wrong side in rounds. We can also turn the cuff inside out as well, just for now. Begin by slip stitching into the first space and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Place your marker on those first set of chain stitches, and into the next space we're going to create a 3 treble bobble. So yarn around the hook twice, go into the next space, pull through a loop. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches on the hook, yarn over, pull through the first 2 stitches on the hook, repeat that again, pull through another set of 2 stitches, and then do that a third time and you'll have created 1 treble. Now into the same space create 2 more trebles. Yarn around the hook twice, into the same space, pull through a loop, yarn over and pull through 2 at a time, but on this occasion we're only doing it twice. We're going to leave behind the last stitch. We now have 2 stitches on the hook. Create a 3rd treble, yarn around the hook twice, into the space, pull through a loop, and again we're going to work through the first set of 2 stitches, the second set of 2 stitches. We now have 3 stitches on our hook. Yarn over and pull through all 3 stitches and finish the bobble with another chain stitch. So that will be a 3 treble bobble, so it's slightly smaller than the main pattern bobbles. Next, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, into the next space, single crochet, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to repeat our little sequence all the way around. So we've chained 3, we next create a 3 treble bobble. Now yarn around the hook twice, into the next space, pull through a loop, yarn around the hook, pull through the first 2 stitches, and again the second set of stitches, and initially we go through 3 times for that first treble of our bobble. Create a 2nd treble, yarn around the hook twice, into the same space, pulling through a loop, pull through 2 stitches at a time, leaving the last stitch on the hook. Create a 3rd treble, yarn around the hook twice, into the space, pull through a loop, pull through once, pull through twice, you have 3 stitches on the hook. Finish your bobble by yarn over, pulling through and creating a little chain to finish that bobble. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and into the next space, single crochet. Now I want you to repeat that sequence all the way around. I'm going to demonstrate it one last time. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, into the next space, create the first treble of your bobble. So that's 1. Create your second treble, leaving the last stitch on the hook. Create your third treble, and when you have those 3 stitches on your hook, draw in and chain 1, and just keep going with this repeat. So 3 chains into the next space, single crochet, so that's my last bobble. Chain 3, and we're going to go and single crochet into the space containing the marker. Now what I'd like you to do is check that you have a total of 20 bobbles. So let me do that check. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Perfect. This next round will be the first round of the main repeat pattern. Now the main repeat consists of 2 rounds, so this will be round 1. Begin by chaining 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and always on those initial chain stitches, place your marker. Single crochet into the next space, which is here. So that's 5 chains and single crochet into the next space. Next, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and single crochet into the next space. And we're going to repeat that sequence all the way around. So again, chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, single crochet into the next space. Next, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and single crochet into the next space. Now repeat that throughout the entire round. Over the last bobble, chain 5, so that's 3, 4, 5, and into the last space here, single crochet, end of the round by chaining 3, 1, 2, 3, and single crochet into the first space containing the marker. So that's our first round complete. Now for round 2. Begin by chaining 3, 1, 2, 3, and position your marker and into the next 3 chain space here we're going to create a full-sized bobble consisting of 4 trebles. So yarn around the hook twice, go into that 3 chain space, pull through a loop and pull through 2 stitches at a time until you are left with 1 stitch on the hook. Next, create 3 more trebles, and this time we're leaving the last stitch on the hook. So now for our 3rd treble, into the same space, pull through a loop and leave that last stitch on the hook. Now for our 4th treble, so yarn around the hook twice, into the space, pull through a loop and pull through 2 stitches at a time. When you have 4 stitches on your hook, 1, 2, 3, 4, yarn over and pull through a loop and create 1 chain. And that's 1 bubble complete. Next, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and single crochet into the 5 chain space here, like so. And that's the pattern that needs to be repeated throughout the entire round. So let's do that again. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, into the 3 chain space, create your first treble. So pull through 3 times initially, remember. Now create 3 more trebles to form your bobble. So yarn around the hook twice, into the 3 chain space, pulling through a loop, this time pulling through twice and leaving that last stitch on the hook. Create your 3rd treble, yarn around the hook twice, into the space, pull through a loop and go through 2 loops at a time. We've got 3 stitches, we need 1 more. When you have 4 stitches on your hook, pull through and chain 1. Next, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and single crochet into the next 5 chain space here. So we now have 2 of the bobbles completed. That's 2 repeats. So I'll show you again, chain 3 into the next 3 chain space, create your bubble. Chain 3 and single crochet into the next 5 chain space. Now keep going all the way around. So I'm at the end of round 2, there's the marker and there's my last 3 chain space. So we will chain 3, one, 2, 3, create the bubble into that last 3 chain space, now that the bubble's complete, chain 3, so that's 1, 2, 3, and into that first space containing the marker we can single crochet, and that completes round 2. Repeat rounds 1 and 2 a further 19 times, that would be 20 in total. Note that the final round in this sequence has a slightly different ending, and I'd like to show you that next. Please note that as I've developed my rounds, I've turned the work to the right side, what I consider to be the right side, and I've been working on the inside of the fabric with the right side outermost. Now I've completed a total of 20 repeats here. I'm ready to finish the 20th repeat. So I'm ending the work. If we go in a bit closer, because this is black, that might help you see. So we're ending the work by chaining 3, and instead of going into that space containing the marker, what I'd like you to do is enter into the first single crochet here, just so that that final round of the sleeve is aligned. So that's how I want you to end the final round of the sleeve. We're now going to create some foundation double crochet stitches. We're going to create a side seam, and then we're going to begin working to and fro. Your sleeve length, when measured from the cuff, should finish approximately 45 centimetres. That's 17 3/4 inches, and the width of the sleeve is approximately 54. That's 21 1/4 inches. Begin your side seam by firstly chaining 2, 1, 2, and then into this same stitch that you've slip stitched into, I want you to create a treble. So yarn around the hook twice and into the same stitch, we're going to pull through once, twice, and a third time to create that treble. Now next we're going to create a foundation double crochet in between the space of the two stitches that we've created. So yarn around the hook once, go into the space, pull through a loop and yarn over. This time just pull through one loop like so, and that creates a chain stitch that forms the foundation chain of our foundation double crochet. And next you yarn over again and create a double crochet as you would normally, so pulling through 2 stitches at a time, then again yarn over, pulling through 2 stitches at a time. So a foundation double crochet has basically one extra process to go through, which is to create that chain stitch. So we've got a further 22 of these to create. So yarn around the hook, and we're going to go this time into the foundation chain we made previously. We're pulling through a loop, yarn over, pull through once to create one chain, and then form your double crochet like so. So we've got a total of 2 foundation double crochets, and we're doing a total of 23. So let's keep going. Yarn around the hook, go into the foundation chain that we made, pull through a loop, yarn over, chain 1 and create your double crochet. 1, 2. So that's 3 foundation double crochets. So let's show you one more time. Yarn around the hook, going into the chain that we made previously, yarning over, pulling through a loop, yarn over, chaining 1 and creating our 4th double crochet. Now continue and stop when you've made a total of 23. So this is my 23rd foundation double crochet. So I have got a total of 23 foundation double crochets there, and next I'm going to turn the work like so, and I'm going to work back along these stitches here. I will begin by chaining 1, and I'm going to single crochet into the first stitch, and next I'm going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm going to single crochet into the 4th double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4. So into the 4th stitch, single crochet, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and into the 3rd stitch, so that's 1, 2, 3, single crochet, repeat that a total of 3 times, so 2 more to go. Chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and into the fourth, 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth stitch we are going to single crochet, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and into the third stitch along, 1, 2, 3, single crochet, and repeat that again, chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, into the fourth stitch along, 1, 2, 3, 4, single crochet, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and into the third stitch, 1, 2, 3, create a single crochet. So we've now got 1, 2, 3 sets there. Next, I want you to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and into the space between those chain 2s and that treble, go into that space and single crochet. Like so. Now we've got to be very careful that we don't twist the work here. We're working what I consider to be the right side, which is the wavy side of the bobble. And next we are going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to enter into the space here that's very tight, but it's there. Next, chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and single crochet into the next space. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and single crochet into the next 3 chain space. And repeat that sequence all the way around. I've now reached the opposite side of the work, and let's zoom in a little bit here, just so you can see what's going on. So I'm going to enter into this side of the bobble left here, and then I'm going to continue along the remaining side of the foundation double crochets. So I've chained 5, I'm single crocheting as usual into that space left of the bobble. Next I'm chaining 3, 1, 2, 3, and making sure that the foundation strip is not twisted. We want to go into the space created between the chain 2 and the treble. So I'm going to go into that space between those 2 stitches and single crochet. Now chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
And into the second foundation double crochet, you need to single crochet.
And just check that aligns with the opposite side, because we want it to look symmetrical as we go up the foundation chains. Next, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to go into the 1, 2, 3rd stitch along with a single crochet, checking that it looks symmetrical with the opposite side. Then chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and go into the 4th stitch along, 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, checking that it all looks symmetrical. So far so good. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, into the 3rd stitch along, single crochet, and chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3 into the 4th stitch, single crochet. So we're nearly at the end. Chain 3 into the 3rd stitch, 1, 2, 3, single crochet, chain 5, and single crochet, this time just into the last stitch. And we have now set up our side seam. The next row we are going to turn the work, and it's going to be a bobble making row. But you can see now that we have this set up, we can work all the way around back to the opposite side and work to and fro. So very importantly, we've turned the work, we're working to and fro. This will be row 1 of the main pattern repeat. So begin by chaining 1, and then we're going to single crochet into the same stitch, and then we're going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're going to single crochet into the 1st space. So that's how we're going to start our new row. Now, what I'm about to show you next is the main pattern repeat itself. So chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and into the 3 chain space we're going to create a bobble. So create your bobble into the 3 chain space, just as you've done on previous rounds, except this time we're working back and forth. So now we've done that setup of the side seam, things will seem familiar from now on. So I am finishing my bobble. I'm chaining 3, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to single crochet into the next 5 chain space. So we're just going to repeat that all the way along. So chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and create your bobble into the next 3 chain space. chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and single crochet into that 5 chain space. So I think you get the idea here. The pattern is now going to carry all the way along around the sleeve and back again to the opposite side. So I'm at the end of this round here. I just thought I'd like to show you how it merges in with the new side seam arrangement. So if you look closely, you can see I've done 3 chains into that 5 chain space. And I'm going to continue on by chaining 3 and creating my next bobble into this 3 chain space here. You can see it's next to those 2 stitches, the 2 chains and the treble. So let's create our bobble into this space. We can chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and there's the 5 chain space which we need to single crochet into, and we chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and there's our next 3 chain space in which to create our bobble. So we're now going along the side seam, look, matching the opposite side in terms of pattern arrangement. So if we just go out a little bit more, so chaining 3 now and going into the next 5 chain space. We're close to the end of row 1, but I just wanted to be clear on how the main pattern now fits in with this new side seam. So look, I'm going into the next 3 chain space, so I'm just following on with the pattern. I'm not quite happy there with that stitch, so I'll do that again. Let's do that again. So we're going into that 3 chain space there, and we're working all the way along to the end of this new side seam arrangement, and then we'll turn the work again. So our last bobble, look, next chain 2, 1, 2, and we're going to create a treble into the last single crochet stitch here. So that's how we end the work, by chaining 2 and creating a treble. So now our side seam gets merged in with our main pattern, like so. Double check after row 1 that the bobbles look to be made the same side as the balance of the pattern. So when you turn over, everything bobble wise matches and is on the same side of the work. You don't want a mismatch here. So ensure for row 2 that you turn the work, so we're working the wavy side of the bobble, if you like, and this is how we begin. So first of all, chain 1 and into the same stitch here, single crochet to begin with. Then we can complete the main repeat, which will be familiar to you. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, single crochet into the next 3 chain space, chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, single crochet into the next 3 chain space, and keep going with that repeat. Chain 3, single crochet into the next space, chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and single crochet into the next 3 chain space, and complete that all the way around. So continue the repeat all the way along till the end of the side seam, and you end by chaining 3 and single crocheting into that very last space. So that's the end of row 2, and that's what row 2 looks like. Now we need to turn the work, and we're going to work row 3, which will be a bobble making round. First, I want you to chain 1 and into the same, well, the first stitch, if you like, single crochet. Now we begin a row 3, firstly by chaining 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, and into the first space create your bobble. So we've got our first bobble there, chain 3 and single crochet into the next 5 chain space. So I want you to work that repeat of chaining 3 and creating a bobble into every 3 chain space. So keep going in this way until you have gone all the way around your sleeve and back up to the opposite side seam edge, and we'll look at how to finish the row. So row 3, a bobble making row, 1, 2, 3, 4. At the end of row 3 here, we end the work by creating a bobble into that last space. completed your bobble, you're going to end row 3 by chaining 1 and then creating a treble into that last single crochet stitch. So that completes row 3. Now for row 4, which is the last row of this 4-row repeat. So now that we're working to and fro, the main repeat now consists of 4 rows. So for row 4, we're going to begin the row by chaining 1, and then we're going to single crochet into our first stitch, and we're going to work that familiar repeat of chaining 5 and then single crocheting into the next 3 chain space, chaining 3, 1, 2, 3, and single crocheting into the next 3 chain space, and repeating that all the way back around. To the opposite side of the work. So chain 5, single crochet into the next 5 chain space, chain 3, and single crochet into the next 3 chain space. Row 4 ends by chaining 5, so that's 5, and single crocheting into that last space. So rows 1 to 4 form the main pattern repeat. What I need you to do next is to complete a further 5 sets of the repeat. So that means including the set we've just done, that's a total of 6. So next we complete a total of 6 sets of the main pattern repeat, and then you want to end on row 1 of the repeat. So you've got those 6 sets, and you can see, look, I've ended on a row 1, and at this point the work changes into the left and right. What I'm going to show you is the wearer's left side. So we're going to be separating, or rather dividing our work, and we'll be working just the back section. So we'll be doing partial rows. So this is row 26, and it's very much the same as a row 2 of the main pattern repeat, the difference being that we're only going so far up the row. So begin by chaining 1 and single crocheting into that first stitch, and then chain 3 and single crochet into that first space, and chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and single crochet into the next 3 chain space. Now I want you to repeat that only 13 times. So that's 1 time. Now for a second time, 1, 2, chain 3, into the next space, single crochet, chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, single crochet into the next space. So that will be 2 times. So after you've completed 13, I'll show you how to end this partial row. check you have 13 repeats. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So that's where we need to be, and then we have a special ending which will shape the back neck. So I want you to end this partial row by chaining 3, 1, 2, 3, and we'll single crochet into here, into this next space. But next we're going to treble into this space left of the bobble. So yarn around the hook twice and go into the space and create a treble.
So that would be row 26.
We now turn the work. I'm going to place a marker in this space where the treble is, just as a reference.
I'm now going to begin row 27.
And it is the same as row 3 of the main pattern repeat, except we have fewer repeats to achieve. So we want to first of all chain 3. Actually the beginning is slightly different, but after we've chained 3 we bobble into the next 3 chain space. So the beginning does differ slightly from the main pattern repeat, but otherwise it's the same principle. So I'm forming my bobble, and I want you to continue in the main pattern as you would do a row 3. So chain 3 after making the bobble and go into the next 5 chain space. And chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and again create another bobble and keep going with that repeat right until the end.
Now row 28 is based on row 4 of the main pattern repeat.
We begin by chaining 1 and single crocheting into that first stitch. Then we're going to chain 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, single crochet into that 3 chain space, chain 3, single crochet into the next 3 chain space, and keep going with that main pattern, and let's see what happens as we reach the end of the row. So this is how the row ends. We're going to go into the space before the marker, and we're going to end the work by chaining 1, and then we're going to treble into the space just before the marker. Like so. And if you want to check on this row, to check that you've got 14 bobbles. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So that neckline shape is now completed, and we can just work back and forth as the main pattern. So let's see what that briefly looks like. So we've got a nice little curve in the back neck by doing those partial rows.
Rows 29 to 32. These are the last remaining 4 rows of the left panel. I want you to follow the main repeat as rows 1 to 4, and after row 1 check you have 13 bobbles, and then after a row 3 check you have 14 bobbles, Once these final rows are completed, bind off and set your left panel to one side. Congratulations, your left panel is now complete.
I now want you to create the wearer's right sleeve, and this is worked in exactly the same way as the left up until the neckline instructions. Next, I want you to create one additional row, so we're ending on row 2 of the main pattern repeat. So here I'm ending that row 2, so I'm chaining 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, single crocheting into the 3 chain space, and last of all chaining 3 and single crocheting into the very last space there. So now we can turn the work and begin the partial row for the right back neckline shaping. So we begin by chaining 1 and single crocheting into the first stitch and chaining 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and creating our first bobble into that 3 chain space. But as this is a partial row, I want you to complete 14 bobbles, and then we're going to end it in a particular way. So when I've got those 14 bobbles, I'll show you how this row ends. When you have 14 bobbles, end this partial row by creating a treble, so that's yarn around the hook twice, into the next 5 chain space. And I'm going to place a marker into that space, and now turn the work.
Now for row 28, which is based on row 4 of the main pattern repeat.
And we're going to begin the work by chaining 1 and single crocheting into the first stitch, and then chain 5 and single crochet into the next space, chain 3, single crochet into the next space, and continue all the way to the end. End this back neck panel by repeating rows 1, 2 and 3 of the main pattern repeat. And note that row 1 has 13 bobbles, so do check your bobble count, and row 3 will end having 14 bobbles. So here's the right panel, the wearer's right, that ends on a bobble making row at the back. And here's our left panel, and as you can see, we ended on a row 4, which is a loop making row. And so if your work looks like this, we can proceed with joining the 2 sections together, and this is done by first of all continuing on and using the yarn from the wearer's right panel. And note that I like the wavy side. This is my right side as far as I'm concerned. And we need to align the work so that the wrong sides are in the inside. So that means first of all putting the wrong sides together. I'm going to turn so that I can access my working yarn from the wearer's right. For clarity, I'm going to use a different coloured yarn so that it shows the joining process a little clearer. So I want you to yarn around the hook twice, because we're going to treble into the first single crochet stitch of the second panel being the wearer's left. So we are just going to join it together, and then into the same space I'm going to slip stitch into the first panel. And now we can do the main repeat section. So chain 2, 1, 2, and into the 5 chain space of the second panel we are going to single crochet. Next, chain 2, 1, 2, and then we will single crochet into the next 3 chain space of the first panel. Like so. Now normally this would be done holding the seams together like so, but that doesn't show up very clearly on camera, so you're just going to have to bear with me, I'm afraid. So next we're going to chain 1, and then into the next 3 chain space here of the second panel we're going to create a bobble. So that's our first treble, and then that's our second, our third, our fourth. So complete the bobble, and then I do a little extra chain stitch, and then when that's complete we are going to chain 1, and then we're going to go into the next 3 chain space of the first panel like so. So you end up with something like that. Now you would be holding the work like this. So let's try and show it how it would be done. So we can repeat that process again. So let's adjust the light a little bit. That's better. So chain 2, 1, 2, and then we want to go into the 5 chain space of the second panel and single crochet. Chain 2, and then into the next space of the first panel, single crochet. So we have that. Next, chain 1, and into that next 3 chain space on panel 2, create your bobble. So that's 2, 3, 4. So complete your bobble, chain 1, and then go into the next space of the first panel and single crochet. So we've done that repeat twice now, so let's do it a third time. So we chain 2, 1, 2, and we go into the 5 chain space of the second panel and we single crochet. Chain 2, and we next single crochet into the next space of the first panel. Chain 1 and into the space, the 3 chain space of the second panel, create your bobble. Oh, I'm having real trouble adjusting to this yarn. Keeps slipping. So that's our third stitch. Bobble nearly complete. And then we chain 1 and single crochet. Like so. And then if we take a look at those 3 repeats, you can hopefully see that once you've got that in the same yarn, you will have an invisible join and the 2 panels will be merged really beautifully. So what I need you to do is to obviously carry on with that repeat all the way along to the end of the back seam. So this is the join in the actual yarn. I thought what I'd do is show you the last repeat and how to end. This is the join in the actual yarn. I've got 2 bobbles to go on each side. So I am chaining 2. I'm going with the repeat pattern and then into the 5 chain space on panel 2, single crochet, chain 2, and then into the next space on panel 1. Notice actually I'm entering it this way on. I think earlier in the contrast yarn I was going that way on, so it doesn't matter. In fact, it's a lot easier to go in from the front and single crochet when you need to join the front panel. Chain 1, then into the 3 chain space on panel 2, create a bobble, so that's 2, 3, chain 1 after you've made your bobble, and then into the next space on panel 1, single crochet, like so. And we're going to end the work. We're chaining 2 and we're single crocheting into that last 5 chain space on panel 2, chaining 2 and going into the last space on panel 1, and then I'm going to treble into that single crochet stitch at the very end of panel 2, and then that will complete the centre back join, and I can now bind off.
In a crochet chart, our work to date would look like this, and the blue row that you can see represents the join we've just achieved when merging our 2 sleeve panels together. So that's the centre back, if you like, of our garment. Now, using the chart, we're going to create left and right front neckline shapings, and we're going to begin with the left panel. Let's zoom into that left panel to the space containing the marker, which is where we're going to be rejoining our yarn from the right side of the work. Call this row 26, and we're going to begin by chaining 3 and single crocheting into the next 3 chain space, and then we'll chain 5 and single crochet into the next 3 chain space, and we'll keep on with that repeat until we reach the hem of the work. So this is based on row 2 of the main pattern repeat. Now for row 27. We need to work towards the neckline as row 3 of the main pattern, so we'll be creating bobbles on this row. And I need you to create 11 bobbles and head in the direction of the neckline, and the 12th bobble has a special ending. Your 12th and final bobble of row 27 consists of only 3 trebles, so when you have those 3 trebles, I want you to yarn over and draw through your remaining 3 loops, and then slip stitch into the 5 chain space, just as the chart. Begin row 28, which is based on a row 4, but begin by chaining 2 and single crochet into the next 3 chain space. Next, chain 3 and single crochet into the next 3 chain space. So continue now in the main pattern as row 4, so chain 5, single crochet into the next 3 chain space, and chain 3 and single crochet into the next 3 chain space. Now the work ends by chaining 5 and single crocheting into the last space. All that's left to do for our left panel is to repeat rows 1 to 4 of the main pattern one final time, so that would take us to row 32. Now after each bobble making round, double check that you've completed 11 bobbles. So that now completes our left panel, so on with creating the neckline shaping for the right panel. To enter into our work correctly, we need to turn the work so that we have the wrong side facing us. So our first row will begin on the wrong side. The next thing to do is to look for the marker position, and note we're not going into that marker space, we're going into the third 5 chain space away from that marker. So go into that space and enter with a slip stitch. So for row 27, we're going to be working towards the hemline, again on the wrong side of the work. So create our first partial bobble by entering into the next 3 chain space, and I want you to create 3 trebles, leaving the last stitch unworked each time, and then yarn over and pull through all 4 loops on your hook, chain 1 and finish the first bobble. So that's how row 27 begins. Next, follow the main pattern based on row 3. So chain 3 and single crochet into the next 5 chain space, and chain 3 and into the next 3 chain space, create a bobble and repeat that main pattern all the way along to the end. End the work by chaining 1 and trebling into the last single crochet. Now check that you have a total of 12 bobbles. So row 28 is based on row 4, So follow the main pattern but end the work by chaining 1 and trebling into the same space as your slip stitch. Complete rows 1 to 4 of the main pattern one final time, so that will take you to row 32. Now on those bobble making rows, check that you have 11 bobbles each time. Once you've completed those 4 rows, we can bind off. Now that our neckline shapings are completed, we're going to move on and create the ribbed hem. And on the first row of the ribbed hem, we're going to be creating eyelets for which to insert a waist tie later. It's very important that we use a 3.5mm hook from now on, as we're going to be working front post and back post stitches, which create a very tight fabric, so it's very important we go up to a 3.5mm hook here. Now we're going to rejoin our yarn to the left front hem from the right side of the work. We want to rejoin with a slip stitch. Begin by chaining 2, and this will count as the first stitch, and then double crochet into the first space, the space next to the very first bobble. Next we're going to chain 2 and into the next space create 5 double crochets. Chain 2 again and double crochet into the next space, the space that has a bobble next to it, and that little sequence that you've just completed is the main repeat throughout the front ribbed panel sections. So I want you to keep going with that repeat until you arrive at the first side seam. Treat the side seam as if it were a bobble and maintain the pattern. So chain 2 and then into the next space create 5 double crochets, chain 2 and double crochet into the side seam as if it were a bobble. So now for the back section. Now the repeat is more or less the same, however note there is a difference in that you create 4 double crochet clusters and not 5 as the front, because in the back section we want to pick up fewer stitches overall. Treat the second side seam as a bobble and maintain the pattern by double crocheting into it. Now keep going with the main pattern repeat into the remaining front section, and remember when we come to a front section we have 5 double crochet clusters. Edge the very end of your work by ensuring you have 2 double crochet stitches. Now let's turn the work and complete row 1 of the main repeat. Now you want to begin row 1 by chaining 2, and that counts as a first stitch, and then into every double crochet you want to do a back post double crochet, and you want to ignore all those spaces. Let's take a little look as to how the back post double crochet stitch is worked.
And I'm going to begin by chaining 2, and that will count as the first stitch, and then into every double crochet stitch I am going to do a back post double crochet. So I'm catching the post by going through the back like so, and then I'm working that double crochet. So I've brought the yarn through, and then I'm going to go through 2 at a time. I'll continue all the way along. So I'm ignoring the spaces and just working every stitch through the back post and in double crochet. So row 2 will be a right side row, and this time we're going to begin by chaining 2, and we're going to double crochet into the next stitch through the front post, and this row will be basically double crochet row through the front post.
Repeat rows 1 and 2 until your ribbed band measures 12 centimetres. That's about 4 3/4 inches. After that we can bind off and we're very nearly finished. Now we need to go back down to using a 2.5mm crochet hook. We're going to create the edgings to the work. Now I want you to rejoin the yarn with a slip stitch to the wearer's right front hem and do this from the right side of the work. And we're going to be working along the front edge up towards the neckline and back down again to the opposite front edge. Begin row 1 by chaining 2, and this will count as your first stitch. Then along the ribbed edge I want you to create 23 half double crochets, so that would be 24 stitches in total. And when you get to the lace pattern, into every 5 chain space create 4 half double crochets, and into every 3 chain space create 3 half double crochets. Where the front edge meets the neckline, allow a total of 6 half double crochets. This helps define the corners. Ensure that the opposite front band also has 24 half double crochet stitches, and that would be row 1 complete. We can now turn the work. Now row 2, we just simply want to half double crochet into every stitch and return back to our initial starting point. Turn the work. We're now going to create 6 button loops, so this applies to the wearer's right side only. Slip stitch into the next half double crochet stitch, and then we can create the main repeat. Begin the repeat by chaining 6, miss the next stitch, and then slip stitch into the second half double crochet. Slip stitch into the next 2 stitches, and then repeat that process a further 5 times, making 6 button loops in total. When you have your 6 button loops, slip stitch and then bind off, and that will be your project completed. Just a matter of sewing buttons onto the opposite side. I'd like to thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed crocheting along with me.